Hello everybody, we are here, 1495 Sports, proudly presenting episode 2, we made it, episode 2 of The Mixer with Stephen Dumeng, and I can't wait, much like last time, can't wait to tell you all about MMA, which is a very evolving sport, as we know. For the record, I just want to say thank you for the response for the initial episode. I was very, very happy to see what we were going on, and I'm so happy that the turnout was so good that we're going to keep doing it again and again, and also thankfully, my predictions worked out. I went 4-0, at least not on the actual calling of the finishes. However, I did really, really well in terms of calling the names, which we'll look at right now. We'll get a quick recap of UFC Fight Night 36 and UFC 170, which are both decent events, I guess. They're all right. I mean, the action was... it was alright, I guess. The shows were decent. I mean, I watched UFC 170 at the bar, and Fight Night 36 I tuned into because it was on and it was free, so I was like, why not? But in any case, Machida walked away with his win. He went up the rankings against Mousasi in a very, very tough fight, and one that I had called. Machida winning the win, taking the win from Mousasi in a very, very back and forth. I mean, props to Mousasi for hanging in there and eating those vicious head kicks that would have knocked out just about anybody. And Mousasi kept going forward. And honestly, I would like to see a rematch considering how close it was, despite what everyone had said, Machida being more dominant. I believe that it was a very close fight, and I think definitely gears for, I think the fight did nothing to tarnish either fighter's reputation. And the co-main event, we saw Carmon losing a unanimous decision to Jacare. I thought Jacare would get the submission, but tells you something about Carmon's submission defense being quite stellar. And Jacare hopefully gearing up a fight. I know he's healing right now, gearing up a fight for him and Machida, which would be an all-out Brazilian warfare. I know how our MMA fans appreciate some... The Brazilians. That would be an awesome fight night main event right there. Jacare versus Machida for the first time ever in battling middleweights division to hopefully solidify a #1 contender behind Vitor Belfort, which we all know will be facing Chris Weidman later this year and should be a spectacular matchup. Moving forward to UFC 170 recap, we saw Sarah McMahon lose her O to Ronda Rousey, which is the very controversial stoppage that Herb Dean once again finds himself in. Poor Herb Dean, the guy can't catch a break. I mean, the fight was super short. It was about a minute and change, and Rousey, oh man, Rousey's face going into that fight was terrifying. Terrifying. It scared me. And I mean, Rousey's just super focused and for all intents and purposes, breaking a UFC record, actually, the quickest turnaround for a UFC champion. She managed to defend her belt in less than 2 months, which is, don't get me wrong, the women's division is thin. However, that's still incredibly impressive to come from a 3-round war with Miesha Tate, submitting her, and then scoring her first round TKO for her win over Sarah McMahon, a very durable Olympian. And for what it's worth, was the stoppage questionable? Maybe it was a little early, admittedly, but you know what, I gotta say, Rousey had a full gas tank. I mean, like I said, it was only a minute into the fight. Was she going to stop throwing punches? I don't think so at all. I mean, she dropped her with a knee in the clinch. You saw McMahon go down, and she started following up some punches. And honestly, McMahon was turtled up, and she was against the fence. And I really don't think she was going to make it back out of that position. Or rather, rise from her position and make another... maybe stab at Ronda Rousey, and I just think that she got caught. It was unfortunate that it may have been a little early, but I stand by the stoppage for what it's worth. It was definitely a hell of a lot better than that Faber stoppage we saw earlier this year, which was something short of a travesty. And then either way, moving to the co-main event of that night, we had a squash match, if you will, with Patrick, the barista, Cummins. I know it's not his nickname, but he's a barista. Come on, everybody. We had Joe Rogan hyping this man up like he was the, he was 4-0, and now he's 4-1. And I know they had to build a fight. I give props to Cummins. I know people are taking jabs at him left and right on forums, on MMAmania.com and other websites like Sherdog. But you got to give him credit. He stood up for a fight with Daniel Cormier, which is not a walk in the park. We saw Cormier successfully make the 205-pound division, which is awesome. You know, I think the fight was a beatdown, but things like that, considering where we are with MMA right now, the last 3 events, that's Fight Night 36, UFC 169, which preceded it, and UFC 170, there was a total of about, we're looking at, I believe it was something like 35 fights. It was like 12 on Fight Night 36, 12 on 169, and 11 on 170. And of those 35 fights, that's a lot of MMA fights, of the 35, our last 3 events, we've had 9 of them go and actually end in a stoppage, which were either submission, TKO, or knockout. That means the remaining fights, the 9 of the 35, the remaining fights, almost, it's over 20 fights, ended via decision. And I don't know what's going on these days. I don't know if it's either competition's getting tougher or people are fighting safe. I mean, I've watched a bulk of these fights, and I can't say that anyone's really fighting safe per se. I'm not in every instance, but for some reason, no one's looking for the finish, and it's unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate that, you know, we have all these rising stars and fighters looking to make a name for themselves, especially on the preliminary action, and we don't see any finishes. It's kind of, you know, MMA is unpredictable. I understand. You know, you can't predict it at all. You can't call what's going to happen like that. Don't get me wrong, certain fights are easier to call than others, but you know, it's not something where you can, it's not scripted, you know what I mean? You can't predict these fights or write them as you would want. As much as Dana and the Fertittas would want certain outcomes, it's not a prediction or a guarantee every time. So, in any case, 9 out of 35 fights, what is going on? That is a disgusting amount of decisions, and hopefully with this upcoming fight card for Tough China finale, we will see some finishes. Please, please, I beg. It's crazy. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Fighters, please finish the fights. I know they got rid of, they're doing performance night bonuses instead of knockout of the night and submission night. It hasn't really seemed to help, considering we've gotten almost, that's what, 9 out of 35? My math's pretty crappy. That's like a quarter of fights. I would say 25, something like that, 25%? Yeah, almost 9 36. Yeah, it's about 25% of fights not being finished is crazy, crazy, crazy. So, you know, props to fights like McMahon and you know, however controversial it is, did end in a stoppage. Same with fights like Eric Silva's destructive knockout in Fight Night 36, which was awesome. Those jumping kicks were so dope. I've never seen that, and I've seen plenty of fights. Awesome, awesome stuff. So hopefully the decision woes come to an end this upcoming weekend, and I don't know, it's detrimental to the sport, and it sucks that we have to see it day in, day out, those 15-minute decisions, but moving forward, I really hope, I know a lot of people had a problem with that Patrick Cummins fight, Daniel Cormier fight. You know, should we have squash matches in MMA? Squash, you know, like as in a fight where there's this clearly outmatched fighter? For the sake of finishes, I mean, it's a guilty pleasure. I think if the UFC finds a balance, there's a place for them. But, you know, Cormier looked fantastic, and he scored a first-round TKO of Cummins in about a minute and I think it's a minute 14 seconds or something like that, and looked awesome in 205. Kept his power. You know, he made the weight easily. He didn't seem to have any problems. He was bouncing on his feet very well. He had Patrick had no answer for him whatsoever, which isn't shocking. But now we know that he can successfully make weight, and he should hopefully be booked against Rashad Evans very soon in a fight that I really wanted to see, and hopefully will be booked very soon. I know it was maybe Rashad's supposed to be coming back fairly soon, but hopefully he recovers quick and we see a legitimate 205-pound match between Rashad Evans and Daniel Cormier, which would be very awesome. I would watch it, of course. Moving forward, we have, what else is coming up this weekend? We have, oh, it's right, the Tough China finale, which I completely forgot about because I haven't watched Tough China, which is the Ultimate Fighter China. Yawn. No offense to those guys, I don't really care to tune in. I don't know, I mean, I love MMA, it's fun to watch, it's dope, don't get me wrong, I love it. MMA is awesome. Just bleed. That's a joke. That's a joke, everybody. However, Tough China, the finale, will be main evented by fellow decision makers who, point fighters, I should say, is probably a better word for that. We have John Hathaway and Duncan Kim trying to move up the welterweight title picture, moving towards the title picture in their division in welterweight 170 pounds. We have Eric Silva coming off a thunderous second-round knockout of the very highly touted Eric Silva. And he's facing John Hathaway, who's coming off a string of decision wins over less than reputable talent. I guess John McGuire was his last win, which, you know, most people who watch this probably don't know what the hell that is. No offense to John McGuire. But John Hathaway returns from almost a 2-year absence against a very brutal Duncan Kim. And don't get me wrong, that was, I believe, the second finish of Kim's second finish in the UFC, minus his UFC debut way back when against Jason Tan. And it was one of the sickest finishes I've seen in a while. And, you know, I think he's claiming in interviews that he's going to utilize his punching power more. Clearly has knockout power, and he's a very, very durable fighter that prefers wrestling in his MMA bouts. So, I mean, I think he's going to come in with a new perspective on his power, but I don't think he's going to be able to finish John Hathaway, who has actually never been finished in his MMA career. So, it's going to be a 5-round fight. Guys, get ready for a 25-minute. I don't think it's going to be very pretty, but it will be a 25-minute matchup. I think Kim's going to take a unanimous decision across every scorecard. Everyone watching should be a very clear-cut unanimous decision for Duncan Kim. And should be a great fight, hopefully. I don't know, Kim's other fights aren't the most, you know, when he's not getting finished by fighters like Condit, they aren't the most entertaining, but like I said, his fight over Silva was fantastic. Very, very awesome back-and-forth matchup. Just don't think he's going to take that kind of chance against John Hathaway, who's a bit more polished than Eric Silva, in my opinion. And should be, hopefully, a decent fight. The co-main event, that, on the other hand, will hopefully generate an awesome finish. We have Shawn Jordan. I believe I know they reworked the Tough China finale. Actually, I'll just say it flat out. One of the other fights I actually care about in the whole fight card, which will be Shawn Jordan versus Matt Mitrione. The battle of the heavyweights coming off some knockout and submission losses. We have Matt Mitrione, who is one of the rare UFC fighters to have every single one of his fights in the UFC, against Shawn Jordan, who is a very durable heavyweight, despite his loss to a very, you know, game Gonzaga. And it should be a very, very quick, brutal, vicious fight back and forth. I see one thing I do like about Mitrione, you know, people don't really like his personality and things he says. I will give the guy credit. He's entertaining to watch, to fight. I don't want to fight him. To watch, of course. And Shawn Jordan is no slouch himself. Every fight he's been in with the UFC has been very entertaining. And I think that the string that these two guys are bringing should compensate for the lack of technique that they probably will be bringing, but all punching power. It should be very awesome. I think we'll see Shawn Jordan go down midway through the midway through the first round. I think we're going to see Matt Mitrione looking to get some revenge. He's 1-3 in his last 4 fights. He desperately needs a win. I mean, so does Shawn Jordan. More so, the win for Mitrione would be great for him. So I think he's going to come in gun blazing and score the knockout. That's going to be on UFC Fight Pass, which is something I still have a problem with. UFC Fight Pass, which is more, we're talking about decision woes earlier. We're going to be talking about UFC Fight Pass woes. Why can't I still watch this on my PS3, my PS4, my Xbox 360? I don't know, anything, you know, come on, work with me, UFC. I love the product. I love the sport. And it just sucks that I can't even tune into it on my own game system when I have, you know, WWE Network came out earlier this week, and, you know, that was ready to go, fired up, ready. And I'm still waiting almost 2 months later. Come on, Dana, hear me out, man. I want to watch it on my 50-inch TV. That would be really awesome. And I can't do it, at least not natively. I would have to get pretty technical in my Galaxy. But we're not going to do that, okay? I'm not in the mood for that. So in any case, Fight Pass, hopefully, it's going premium next. Actually, yeah, next week. It's going to go premium within the week. This is going to be the last free, you know, the trial ends this upcoming month, at the end of the month. And it's the last free event, if you will. And then we have Gustafson, who returns from his John Jones highly contested bout against the very, very dynamic Jimmy Manuwa. And that should be, I admittedly, you hear me here out. You hear me out? I don't even know if that makes sense. But you hear me out now. I will not be renewing my, that trial thingy. I'm good. It sucks. I don't even want to. Fight Pass kills me. Unless it gets better, which it doesn't seem to really do much of that. I really think that I will be skipping out and not inputting my credit card information for real that time. However, Gustafson versus Manoa will be a good fight. I mean, Manoa is defending his position in the light heavyweight rankings. He's 3-0 in the UFC, undefeated as a mixed martial artist against, like I said, Gustafson, who's coming off that debatable decision over John Jones, which is definitely the closest we've seen John Jones to a loss. And who knows? Well, Gustafson is a battle-tested veteran at this point. He's had numerous fights in the UFC. Manoa is extremely talented. He's a dark horse entering this fight. Yeah, I went there. They're going to fight, they're going to bout, they're going to do whatever the hell they want. It's going to be a good fight. In any case, I think Gustafson is going to be able to, being the bigger fighter, take Manoa to a 5-round decision in what should be a very, very back-and-forth matchup. However, as we move away from our Fight Pass woes, which hopefully Dana, Fertitas, and everyone working on UFC Fight Pass can hear me out, please make it better because I want to watch it and enjoy it, but I can't, which is unfortunate. But anyways, moving forward, we have the Bellator Return, which should be awesome. This will be this Friday. We see Rampage. Woo, Jackson. That was a very bad howl. I don't really howl much. And even though I look like a werewolf, I don't really get the howl going on. Even though next time I probably should wear a chain. If Rampage does win, I don't know if you guys want to see it. I'll probably wear a chain. I'll probably keep my werewolf look because I don't know, I've been lazy. But anyways, we'll see Rampage Jackson return, which should be awesome against Christian Mapambo. Much like I called this before, I don't think my stance on any of it's changing. We'll see a first-round knockout by Quentin Rampage Jackson, and then we will see King Mo hopefully rebound. I know he has to shut his critics up in hopefully a 3-rounder with Mikhail Zayats, who's a very tough fighter. All 4 men, no stranger to Bellator cage, and we'll see that go down this Friday in what should be an awesome return for Bellator. I know a lot of people, I know I said this last time in the first episode, people don't give Bellator credit, but you know what? It's an alternative. We can't have a monopoly in the MMA world. In my opinion, I think competition is better. Much like we saw with the Gilbert Melendez signing, or, well, not, I guess, re-signing that he had over with the UFC. He got much more leverage in his contract, more money for the fighters, makes happier fighters. Hopefully that means good things for the sport. I mean, comparatively, I know Money Mayweather has a fight lined up. I like combat sports. Boxing is a guilty pleasure, but for you guys, I guess for me, I love boxing. It's fun. Money Mayweather has lined up his next fight. We'll know that he'll be making more than MMA. I think he'll be making more in his one fight than all MMA fighters combined, which is partially an exaggeration. But he makes millions. That's why they call him Money. And it would be great to see UFC fighters who, go in and out of the sport and arguably fight. Money Mayweather typically fights, 1 or 2 times a year. Obviously, he's older and, he's much more known. But it'd be great to see the UFC fighters in general make more money, see the fighters grow in terms of how they feel making more money. I feel it result in more happier fighters result in more finishes. Hopefully, we'll see more fighters be active and wanting to secure the finish so we get less decisions, which would be great because decisions, unless they're a back-and-forth fight, don't get me wrong, I don't mind seeing a decision here and there, but when we're seeing fight cards of like 12 end with 2 finishes, it's depressing. So maybe we should get more squash matches. Maybe, who cares? It's a guilty pleasure. I mean, don't get me wrong. It doesn't really do much for the rankings, but you know what? We prove certain things. In the perfect example with the Cormier fight, we knew he was going to win. Admittedly, it doesn't really do anything for him in rankings, but it gave him a highlight reel finish, which he didn't have in the UFC. He was coming off this 2 decision wins. So he finally got his UFC finish, and not to mention, he made 205 successfully, and it was good for him. It's a good experience. I think it's a good thing for the fans. We always demand finishes. We need more exciting fighters. We need more exciting fights. Make it happen. And that is episode 2 of The Mixer. I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. thank you so much for tuning into the first episode. Come visit us at 1495 Sports. We have a lot of good stuff in the works for you guys, the viewers. Leave any comments, any concerns. I will gladly, answer said questions, comments, concerns, qualms, whatever you guys want on your comment section. I'll gladly get back to you guys, and hopefully you enjoyed the show. I did. Follow us on the Facebook Mixer fan page. We have one of those bad boys. Hopefully there'll be a link here digitized so I can make my pointing actions not weird. So it'll be great. But thank you so much for watching. This has been The Mixer with Stephen Dumeng, episode 2. We will be back for episode 3 very soon. Thanks for tuning in.